Well, welcome back, folks. Today's an update on the Dremel variable speed tool that I talked about in a previous video. I was using this, if you recall, to grind down some of the welds on the Suzuki TS50 project that I had to do some welding on the rear inner fender. And at that point I had mentioned that I was considering replacing this tool with a new one. I had done some work on it a few years ago, a number of years ago now, and replaced the brushes and the locking mechanism, which is right here at the top right of the shot. So I investigated the replacement parts versus buying a new tool, and again I think this tool goes now for, in my area, 75, 80 US dollars or so, something like that. The tool works fine, except for I couldn't lock the spindle anymore, and you can see I pulled the spindle assembly out of the tool. I'll come back to that in a minute. But I did some research to determine what replacement parts would be, and I went to this supplier, E-Replacement Parts. I've bought from them before. In fact, these are the folks I bought the replacement brushes from a number of years ago. I've bought other parts from them over the years as well. And I ended up buying replacement parts. I bought a new lock assembly and the armature and bearing assembly. And here's what they cost. I thought they're very reasonably priced. And these are North American made. These parts are made in Mexico, which is obviously part of North America. The lock was $2.99 and the armature and bearing assembly was less than 19 US dollars. So delivered to my door with shipping and sales tax, etc., came to less than 30 US dollars, which I thought was very reasonable. So I went ahead and ordered the parts, obviously, and here they are. Here's the armature and bearing assembly. Right there. It has bearings on both ends. And again, the reason I am replacing this assembly here is, and I'll give you a close-up of that in a minute, is the holes. There's holes you can see here on this assembly where there's a pin. My fingers are a little grubby right now because I was working on my old winter truck yesterday, my Ford Ranger, 2000 Ford Ranger. I had to replace the fuel filler neck that goes from the outside of the box to the fuel tank. It was rusted out and leaking when I put fuel in it. So I had to get up all underneath there, and it was very grubby, and as you can see I got my hands all grubby doing that, and I can't get those clean, so eventually they'll just get cleaned through repeated attempts to get them cleaned up. But anyway, this pin right here, you can see right here, that little nipple or little nub, engages right there like that and prevents that assembly from turning. This is, of course, the original. I was thinking that originally that the pin was wore, and which I had replaced a few years ago, of course, and it was a simple matter of replacing the pin. Well, it wasn't that simple. Here's the armature shaft itself, and you can see it's worn right there, and that pin is worn as well, and it wasn't engaging as well as it should. So what I decided to do is just replace that shaft assembly as well as the pin itself. So I've got the new armature, and then I've got the new locking assembly right here. So these are the two new parts that I bought for that less than 30 US dollars. Obviously I had to take the tool apart to determine what parts I needed, and I had thought originally a few years ago when I'd replaced the brushes that I had peeled these stickers or decals, labels off. I hadn't. What I'd done is slit that with a knife so that I could separate these two halves. This just is a clamshell. It comes together like that. And you can see there's 4 screws that hold the assembly together. They're Torx screws, they're Torx T10. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just a matter of pulling those 4 screws and then working this clamshell apart. And then I could remove this whole assembly. And as you can see, I have not removed it yet from the carrier, as you can see right here. So that's what we're going to do now. is I'm going to pull this one out, and I'm going to put this one in, and then we're going to go ahead and put this assembly back together. Now that I've got that rubber disc or wheel off, I think, I've never had this part, I think this just, you have to just finesse this out, this armature, like that. Well, there's the old, and there's the new. Obviously this chuck or this collet chuck will come off the end here. Let's just compare these for a moment. You can see they are identical. You see a little bit of a wear mark, as you would expect. And I'm thinking this should go back together about the same way. Quite clean in there. So now we'll just see if we can't finesse this back together again. I've got it just started, so now I'm going to just work it back in. You notice this end piece here, with the wiring plugs in, I'm going to attempt to not remove that, if I can help it. There. So now we're going to go ahead and take these 4 screws out. I just put this back together so that I didn't lose the screws. So that we can put this back together. Take the nose piece off. Now we just got to work this back apart again. Like that. I think we've got everything about ready to go back together. I did remove these 2 little side pieces here, as you can see. Make it a little easier to drop the assembly in because I'm going to drop the motor into this half. This is a half that's got the blue button that locks that spindle from turning when you remove the tool. I did study this a little bit more, and I decided that I would reverse this rubber tire or wheel, and I put the flange out, as you can see, I think here. I think that was probably the original way it came out. I don't remember anymore, but I think it's going to fit better that way. So now it's a matter of taking this assembly and dropping in this half. This also is a half where the switch protrudes through. That is the blue switch right here. Has to fit in there. So I can tell from the positioning of the blue switch and the holes here for the locking mechanism where this has to be positioned laterally or horizontally like this. First thing I'm going to do is put the locking pin in. The larger end goes down and pushes against the inside of that blue button like that, and then the spring, which returns it to the neutral position, fits something like that. So I'm going to try to put this together without getting my head in the way, so you're going to have to just bear with me. I know this little tire right here fits in that slot right there, or thereabouts. And so now we're just going to see if we can't get everything just to align like it's supposed to. There, I think. There, I think we've got everything in place. So the locking pin aligns with the holes here. It looks like everything is aligned correctly. I'll take this grommet, put it like that, get those wires out of the way. It originally went down in there, like that. best I can recall. I think we've just about got that ready to go. So now we'll go ahead and put these plastic side pieces back in. And get everything just aligned just so everything fits right. Make sure the armature is free, which it is. Wires are tucked in. And then this piece should just fit right over the top. Like that. Still turns. So now I'll just go ahead and put the 4 screws in to hold the case together. I'm not going to tighten these up until I have all 4 of them at least started. The other thing I'm not going to do is completely tighten this case down, or these 4 case screws, until I've put these brushes back in. So I'm going to match the curvature of the brushes to the curvature of the armature in there. And then I'm going to just put these brush caps back in, or on. Like that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and snug these the last time, these final 4 screws up. Just need to be snug, they don't need to be over tightened because this is plastic after all. Make sure the armature is still free. Something is binding up in there. And it is. So now we're going to go ahead and I'll put this nose cone back on, and we'll plug it in and we'll give it a try. So I've got it plugged in and I got the power on to it, so let's go ahead and see what happens here. Perfect. Put the collet back on. And let's see if this lock here works. After all, that's where we really started this journey. See if that actually locks the shaft, and it does. And it releases. So we're all set. So I consider that a success. For less than $30 US. I got my little Dremel back online. Parts are inexpensive, easy to get. It wasn't not a difficult job or process to repair it, so we're going to consider this a success. That's going to be it for this video today, folks. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.